side and a couple more attacks. Another really common attack in this overhook. However we get there, working my way off to the side. You know, sometimes you really want that triangle, but people already hide that arm. They won't let you get a grip on it. If she's keeping it off the mat, it's really hard to set this up. I really want that hand on the mat in order to set this up, right? So if she's grabbing my leg or anything like that, I have to be really careful here because an overhook is really powerful from the closed guard. It's not so powerful from half guard, right? So if she pins his leg to the mat and starts passing over it, I'm now in a really bad spot. I don't have an underhook anymore, and she's gonna start cross-facing and cutting angles and start really making it hard for me to recover and sweep, okay? So I can't let her get the half guard. So just number one, make sure if they're touching your leg, make sure your foot is always up, kind of in the hip area here. Ideally, if you could pull it up and actually step on the hip, you'll have much better luck because now I have something to kind of lever off of and I'm much more powerful here, okay? So what I'm gonna do is switch off to the omoplata. We're gonna do the omoplata a couple different ways today, a couple different ways to finish. We'll start with like a very fundamental, basic omoplata. So what I wanna do for the omoplata is get this leg in front of her face, okay? But I'm not flexible enough to pull it to front. I don't trust my knees to bend like that, right? So I'm gonna rotate my upper body so I push off of this leg and I kind of push off my inside of my leg here and swing my body off to the side and make that same angle we did for that switch figure 4. It's virtually the same thing, right? The switch triangle, reverse triangle. So instead of putting it on the far shoulder though, I'm looking to get this foot in front of the face on this side, okay? I really like the foot in front of the face, especially from this position, because it makes it much harder for her to pass over that leg, makes it much harder for her to circle around or anything like that. And I have a little bit of time to start working on getting to a little bit better position, okay? So I can still have my overhook at this point. I'm gonna release it, and I'm gonna look to get control of her wrist with my right hand, and then pass that control, or to my left hand, and then pass that control to my right hand. Okay, I wanna make sure that this wrist stays in this pocket over here. If this wrist ends up in this pocket, the submission is gonna be much, much harder to finish. I have to switch off to something a little bit different, which I don't wanna do, okay? So I'm gonna switch my right hand to the wrist, and then I'm gonna go ahead and grab onto her belt with a palm up grip back here, okay? Now I'm looking to get this foot out. Even if she's holding it, I'm still gonna take this foot out and start putting it on the floor and start switching my angle off to the side, okay? Now I start shrimping and tripping. I started on my right hip. I'm switching all the way to my left hip, and then I'm gonna start kicking my leg straight to use my hamstring to push her shoulder down to the floor, okay? So I start kicking, because I wanna break her posture as much as possible. If I keep my leg bent and just try to put my foot on the floor, I don't have any power here, so if she starts to posture up, she's gonna beat me there and probably really cut the corner and come back, okay? Now, when I straighten my leg and use my hamstring, I'm engaging much larger muscles to do that, and it's way harder for her to posture up against that. Like, go ahead and try to posture up. I can put almost my entire body weight in that leg and make it really hard for her to stand up, okay? So now, I'm looking to get off to my left side, sit up, while I keep pulling this, right? Now I want to get parallel to her as much as possible. I want my hip to be as close to hers as possible. So I shrimp all the way in, get close, so I bump our hips together. Then this heel is gonna pull back, and I wanna try to pull this elbow down to the floor. So I pull this heel, and as I do, I'm pulling it away from her body and trying to pin it down on the ground. Both knees come back, and now I just try to put this knee on the floor and bring my head up to the back of hers for the tap. Okay. Same start as before, looking for this triangle, can't get it for whatever reason, right? Foot in the hip, because I want this mobility. You can do this without the foot in the hip, but it really helps to be able to put your heel in there and step off of that. So I can't just swing here. I don't want to do this. I don't want any of you guys to do this kind of thing, right? Especially none of you old guys. Blow your knees out, right? So I rotate my upper body to get here. Now I'm parallel. There's no flexibility involved in any of this, but I'm on my... There she is. But I'm on my right hip, right? So I want to get to my left hip. So I'm going to switch to the belt. Right hand goes to the sleeve. And I want to start shrimping out, getting parallel to her, to my left hip. And then I stomp that leg to put her shoulder down, carry the weight. Now I have to keep pulling on this belt the whole time. She's going to try and roll and escape. So I need to pull back this way to keep her back on her knees as much as possible. In this case, I want her butt and her heels like as close together as possible, but I'm just still extending her away. Now pull up, continue to fix my angle, pulling this out. I don't want you guys to finish with the knee up here on the shoulder. It is possible, but when this elbow can travel off the floor, there's much more shoulder rotation and flexibility involved for her. So somebody that's really flexible might not tap from that. But the moment you start pulling this out, it starts creating a ton of pressure on the back of the shoulder, and then just the slightest little movement will finish the move. One more time. Overhook. Start creating my angle. She's blocking me. Foot in the hip. Rotating over. Leg in front of the face. Okay. Switch your hands. Belt. Sleeve. Shrimping. Extending. Pulling yourself up. Cover the hip so she can't roll. Again, I want this my knee as close to the elbow as possible. So I'm going to slide this out and pull that heel back. Everything straight here, because I know I got a good line. Easy submission. I'll probably get a wrist lock in there at the same time. Sound good? Let's do it. 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of how omoplatas are shown, at least the finishes are shown pretty much everywhere around the world. Pretty common setup, right? Grabbing the belt, sitting up and all that. Now the only problem that we have with doing this type of finish is that there's a couple possible escapes. And I'm not saying it won't work, it will definitely work, but there's ways we can modify this to make it a little bit stronger, right? So as I'm circling out, the two issues here, if I don't have a great belt grip or very good control, or she's just really quick and recognizes what's happening, she's either gonna dive over either one of her shoulders and roll, and when she does that, it's pretty easy for her to come up into my half guard, or maybe a lasso or something, but it's not gonna be very great for me. She's gonna get there faster than I can get up, unless I predict it. And if I'm predicting something like that, then I didn't do a good job setting up my omoplata, right? If I don't have control of this belt, or maybe I'm grabbing too low, or her belt's too loose and it's rotating, if she jumps over to the other side, this is 10 times worse for me, because now I'm in side control. This grip around the arm here, with my leg here, this is not guard, okay? This is just a lasso from side control. Right? It's not strong, and you will definitely get 3 points scored on you in a tournament if they do that, okay? Now, I would probably keep that, pass it to the other hand, use my right hand to frame, maybe lose that head control, and try to use that to get back to a guard. So I wouldn't necessarily drop it right away, but it's not guard. So it is a guard pass for her. You have to be careful of that. So things we can do to alleviate that problem, and this is the strongest way we found to finish an omoplata, is to get this hip on the floor, okay? So if I have that belt grip, a simple modification we can do is to put the elbow on the outside of the knee. So as I grab the belt, I'm trying to find her knee with my elbow as close to the floor as possible, okay? Now I'm basically gonna pull the belt towards me as I push my elbow away to try and pull her hip down and topple her over her leg over here. Now I'm gonna do that while I'm shrimping away from her, and it's gonna pull her all the way onto her side. This is what we want, because now from here, I can use this belt to punch off the ground and sit up, and I'm still holding the belt if I can and punching the ground, so she's not gonna be able to get back up, because now she's carrying all my body weight in her hips, even though I'm not even barely touching her at all, okay? Now I can either keep this grip, transition out to the elbow, and finish, or I could let go, hug the hips. If you got someone that's really flexible, we always start attacking the choke, right? Because you start attacking the choke, they're gonna tap either from the omoplata or the choke, and they can't really defend it. That's one way. Another really powerful way we can do this is instead of grabbing the belt, okay, if I grab the pants all the way at the bottom, close to her foot, as close as possible. Now remember, I can't reach inside here and grab, that's illegal. They made that illegal because it's too dangerous for your fingers. People kept breaking their fingers. You have to grab on the outside and make a hook. You can never put your fingers inside, okay? It always has to be on the outside. So you're just gonna make a hook grip on the outside of the pants. Now, when I shrimp out, instead of pulling her onto her side, her butt is sitting on her heels right now, so she's really heavy back here. All of her weight is right here. Once I start extending this leg, it pulls her butt away from her heels, and it makes her leg really light. So now I can just punch that out of the way. Okay, so if I just stretch her out, arm and leg at the same time, she'll fall right on her belly, right? Now, to get up from here, I don't want to let go because I don't want to give her any time to get back to her knees. So I like to keep the grip, pull my elbow up, and put it on top of the back of the hamstring. Okay, now I let go of that, grab onto the jacket or grab onto the belt, and use that to pull myself up. I still have weight in her leg. Now my weight's in her hips. Now I cover the hips, get out to this elbow, and then finish. They don't tap, wrist lock. One more time each. Getting here, if I get this belt, elbow on the knee. So the reason why I would use one over the other is she has a really wide base like she kind of does now. Her knees are really wide apart. It's going to be hard sometimes to knock people over in this position. Like it's really hard to pull her over. If that's the case, right to the pants, stretch, follow around, elbow on the back of the leg, climb your way up. Okay, so you're either punching that knee in, pulling the hips out, or punching the leg out, dropping the shoulder, okay? Let's go, 1, 2, 3. All right, so I mentioned last week when we were initially starting to work on this stuff earlier this week, that this was my #1 attack at white belt, and I did pretty much only no-gi all through white belt, and I was able to use this a lot. This triangle setup was my favorite. I use it all the time, and then transition into no-gi or in the gi well. But in playing around with it so much, I found so many cool little fun things you can do from it, and we'll explore one of those today. I used to call it like the chicken wing, all sorts of different names for it. But the idea is when I'm going for my triangle, I'm not actually going to go for the triangle. I'm going to start pulling my leg through, and once it's halfway through, I'm going to stop and go to like a spider guard. So I've got an overhook spider guard, okay? So I can either control the wrist or I can control the sleeve. It doesn't really matter at this point. Usually controlling under the wrist at the hand is usually going to be your strongest bet for this, but it really doesn't matter, okay? I just want to keep control over it and keep her arm bent. I'm going to curl my toes around the bicep so I have a good spider hook. I want to be able to track her arm when I let go of the arm, or let go of the wrist, okay? But now I'm going to swing my leg over just like we did for our Omoplata. I can pull this arm out, start swinging my leg over, okay? But the fun thing is now from here with this spider hook, I can use this hook to pass her arm off to my other leg and trap her in this position. It's almost like a reverse crucifix, okay? Now, as long as my toes are pointed up and back, I can track her arm pretty well, and it can be pretty hard for her to get out. If you need to, you can always kind of bring your other leg on top or just step on it, just to make sure she can't pull her arm out very easily, okay? But if I'm pulling this back really far, she doesn't have any rotation left in her shoulder to get out of it, and I can always just lift my foot up and follow if I need to, okay? But this is a really slick position because she's trapped, right? It's really hard to get out of this. It's hard to posture up and everything. And I have a ton of different attacks I can do from here. I can start attacking this arm with the modified kimuras that we were doing before. I've got the wrist locks. I've got the straight arm bars. I can go to Americanas if I really wanted to. Like, there's all sorts of attacks on this arm over here. We can do what we call a kanto choke. It's a famous judo choke. If I reach through to the far lapel and get a grip on it, it doesn't even have to be deep. Just grab the far lapel. So my forearm is right under the neck. I escape my hips out, so I'm facing this way a little bit. Swing my leg up and over the head, and then just stomp down, crushing her neck into the choke. Really, really strong choke. And again, it's hard for her to tap because their hands are kind of tied up. Okay, but it gets even more fun than that. Like as I keep going, I can use my feet to start pulling her arm in and create this ugly double shoulder lock where you pull the shoulders back. About 6 years ago, Tammy Musumeci, Becky's sister, got her arm broken with this exact submission from Michelle and Feline. But double shoulder lock here, right? All sorts of stuff. A lot of times people pick this foot up because it makes them feel more stable. They can drive in a little bit, and that's only worse for them because now once I hook under that, now she's completely bound up here. She's not getting out. It's super easy to finish on this arm all day long. If I want, I can sweep her back over to the left. I could roll her over her head and sweep that way, right? So we just have a whole bunch of different options. I really want you guys just to play around with the position and the control and have some fun with it. But it's really, really powerful and easy to get into. So just starting out overhook like normal. Foot on the bicep, right? I can't get it from this angle because my foot is facing the wrong direction. Even if I were to get this foot in here, it's really easy for her to get it out because I can't really hook on it, right? So make sure when you guys are here, you're rotating your hips so you're facing the ceiling. Now my foot can angle backwards. So when I lace this up and over, she's stuck, okay? The most fun choke is obviously the kanto choke. But what's really fun is you can add everything together, start attacking the shoulder, the wrist and the shoulder and the neck, all that stuff at the same time for easy submissions, okay? Or like I said, if I pull this in, grab this arm, and then just pull it towards you. It really is painful, and the more straight the arm is, the more painful it is. Okay. Yeah. So there's another kind of loop we can do that's fun. Really, this is just for fun, but it really does work well, and it really annoys people, which is the best part about it. So now if I want, I can also go the other way. So if I get this foot in front of the shoulder, I can bring this arm up and over and lace it in front as well. And this really sucks too, because yeah, this is more painful because as I flex my foot and pull the sleeve, it's a shoulder lock there. So I've got shoulder lock here, shoulder lock there, right? All at the same time. Wrist lock, shoulder lock, all sorts of stuff. So it's just really fun to abuse your friends with. So I want you guys to have some fun with that. Just play around with it for a little bit, see if you like it, because I love it.